At Kinesso, how are you thinking, there's been so much talk about AI, and it seems like the media buying, planning, optimization aspect of it may happen faster than the impact of generative AI. Would you agree with that, or do you think those are parallel paths?
Well, I would say that it's already a key component of those areas. I mean, if you do any form of prediction, or you've been doing any form of prediction for a long time, it's a type of AI, right? Linear regression, it's machine learning. So those types of things are already built into a lot of planning and optimization, those areas. I think that there's a couple of things that will mean that AI gets more advanced in those areas quicker. One is that data scientists are already embedded in those teams that build those products, so they're the people that should be building these things. And then two, I think there's a natural progression to go from some sort of like linear prediction to maybe something that uses neural networks, deep learning, which is really where I think probably you're going to start to see more advancement in planning and optimization using deep learning techniques over maybe some of the more traditional techniques that have been used for the last few decades.
There's been some tension, at least on the media side, of the more we hand over dollars to AI tools, the less control or knowledge we have of our execution. How do you balance that tension if there is some?
I think first of all there has to be greater education as to what it means to hand something over to AI. There is one of the challenges with getting, say, deep learning techniques or neural network-based techniques into those solutions is the lack of understanding of somebody who isn't a data scientist as to what that means. You can't give a deep learning solution a narrow task and expect it to necessarily do a particularly good job, or certainly constrain it so much that it can't do a good job. You have to be willing to kind of open up the door and let it go. And you can't do that unless you understand how it's doing the thing that it's doing. So I think that there's got to be, I think one of the benefits Gen AI brings to this particular area is that everybody's got to learn more about AI. And Gen AI is more accessible, arguably maybe more complex to understand as a concept, but it will force everyone to kind of upskill in AI, meaning that hopefully there's just a greater level of trust anyway when it comes to handing the keys over. And then the other part is obviously explainability, which there's still a lot of work needs to go into that space. And there's got to maybe be some receipts that people can take away as to this is what this did, maybe this is why it did it. But again, coming back to that understanding, maybe there's some questions that we've traditionally said this is why something happened, and maybe we just have to accept that some machines just do these things. They know they are better at doing it, and there doesn't need to be a why if it just did something that was better. Now, why tends to come into question more when things don't go well, right? And so you've got to bake that in, that there is obviously, our approach is to try to keep a human in the loop, certainly that's key in the Gen AI space. And making sure you've kind of got breaks between the steps that happen. So, are you going to recommend a whole lot of bids and then just set them live without any form of check-in? There's maybe got to be some, let's say, permeable barriers that sit between each of these steps so that you can be sure that if you want to swap out the permeable barrier with something that's maybe more structurally sound and just stop something from happening, you can do that. And I think that's where there has to be focus, is explainability and those kind of like off switches that just go, stop doing this until we've reviewed why it's done that thing.
From a big picture perspective, how do you bring clients along with all this education, with also this confusion, fear, get everybody moving fast but not too fast? Is that a challenge overall?
It is, yeah. And I think part of our approach has been to think, I suppose, of your activity in slices. It actually is, it's not too difficult to take that approach and take a a nice slice of all your activity across multiple channels, vendors, whatever they may be, and then try to expand that out as you earn trust, as you gain performance, and also kind of take some of the constraints off it. If you try to, I think, if you stick to doing it in a kind of vertical sense, I don't think it's going to perform, and maybe you're setting yourself up to fail in that. Whereas if you're taking a slice across in a more horizontal fashion, you're going to get more variety, and you can do it in a very controlled way. So I think that's been certainly our approach to having those conversations.
Lastly, if you talk to the enthusiasts in this space, they speak in terms of like nothing. Every aspect of our lives will be different. Every aspect of our business will be different. When will we feel that, or is that too hyperbolic?
You don't feel that yet? I mean, I think. I mean, part of the problem with that is that we very rarely kind of sit back and go, actually, how much is my life different from 6 months ago? Reality is my work life is very different. I mean, literally every conversation I have is about AI, and been in this space for quite a long time, but I never talked about it as much as I have done in the last 6 months. And then also, if I look at the volume of work that I put out personally now, it's increased massively because I've got these agents that help me do work now, and I think that yes, I work in tech, and so I'm an early adopter. But that, we're on that curve now, and everybody is going to start to feel it. And we've been very much focused on how do you educate our people so that they become familiar with the technology, learn how it can benefit them. You've got to start to, just like if you were putting a brand new team of people, right? You've got to learn what everybody's strengths are, where they're going to help you, where they're going to do the same things. These agents are just additional team members, and people have to get that familiarity so they can get the most out of it. But I do think that I agree. I mean, I was on a panel yesterday. I brought up the Isaac Asimov robot novels, massive fan of those. The guy thought about some very important things a long time ago that I'd say seem to be holding true in terms of his prognostications. But there really, I don't think, is much limit to what part of our lives it's going to affect, other than maybe what do we want to control in that aspect. I'm sure that there will be some people that are on the Luddite end of the spectrum and maybe want to chop wood and live off the grid, and there are people that want to fully embrace the whole thing, and will have robots assisting them in their home and in work. That's the spectrum that I think we will all live in. And if you walk around, obviously the floor, it's robots everywhere. I don't really think there was any part of the floor that didn't have a robot on when I walked around yesterday. So if we're not readying ourselves for that, it may well come as a big surprise in a few years' time when they are everywhere.